I want to talk to you about my friend Charlie Crawford. He's a 10-time NFR qualifier.
Charlie Crawford, time to just shake it out and win. Got it on him fast, set
there
up.
We are.
Here's a dead
nice
money
run.
lead. You betcha 3-8.
That's an absolute perfect run. Timing was perfect from the time the first swing is up. He's got the control. Charlie made it happen by being timed up with his horse with the steer, and being able to not just rope, but to pick that steer's head up without changing the momentum for the heeler at all.
We know his beautiful wife, Jackie, all three of their beautiful children, the founder of the Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, which this year will exceed $1 million raised for military and first responders. I've said it 1,000 times. Charlie, it's time to rope, nod and ride, whip and spur. I want to welcome you to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Let's ride.
All right. Happy New Year, everybody. It's in January. I'm very excited today about the podcast. We've got Chad Decker here with Hard 8 Barbecue, and very excited about this podcast. Chad, thanks for coming on.
Hey, Charlie. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
Looking forward to it.
So when I do lessons and clinics there at the house, first thing they ask is if they're able to go to lunch to Hard 8, or if we're done, is that the place we're headed right as soon as we're done. This is, to me, Hard 8 in Stephenville is the attraction touristy in the fact of this is where we're going to eat.
Man, I tell you what, that store right there has been, without a doubt, the cornerstone of our whole business. We, through Stephenville, have been afforded to go in some other directions and put some other stores in through economic development in 4 other locations. But Stephenville was the anchor for all of it. My father-in-law and I and mother-in-law, when we started in 2003, we're looking for that location. And that spot right there at 281 and 67 just screamed place to put a barbecue business, and you can park horse trailers, and it was just, it worked along with Lone Star Arena, and it was just the 281 traffic zone through there is just a corridor from north to south. So it worked out great, and we've just been blessed.
That is one of the things that when I go there, every time I go through there, I always shop through the meat. I might go through the chicken or the brisket or the rib. I always kind of shop around on the meat and stuff like that, steak, but I never ever skip the macaroni and cheese or the mud pie. Those are guarantees. Those I do not leave without those two things.
Well, that's
y'all dessert platter, man, is phenomenal. The between the cobbler and the banana pudding, and it's that's a not miss.
Must be doing something right.
Oh yeah. I've always heard stories about Jackie. I remember she was telling me some stories when they were in college. That was kind of the hit back then. Was you didn't have I think this county, there was no liquor license, if I remembered right.
It was a dry county at the time.
It was a dry county at the time.
It was in a private club, kind of it was the wettest dry town in the world back then, for sure.
So you guys, you had free beer, free beans, and free bread, which free attracts college kids. This is also a college town.
Multiple. Attracts them, all their friends, and all their friends' friends.
But surely somebody was going to buy something.
Somebody might buy a little piece of sausage just so they can kind of save face, but listen, they're dealing with rodeo kids. They don't have a face. They just do it.
I tell you what, you guys probably kept more kids fed.
I promise you.
Than anything.
We have bought a beer for not 1, but 10 for every college kid that went through here in the early 2000s.
She told me Wayne Fulmer, man, he would hardly ever miss a meal there because that's where he would head.
Wayne's one of my best friends in the world, and we kind of grew up together, and that guy, he had it figured out for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're rodeoing, you don't know much math, but you do know simple things. You know how to subtract, and you know how to stay alive.
Yeah, he was rodeo trash way before rodeo trash was trash.
Yeah, him and John were legends.
They sure were. They sure were, for sure.
Well, I'd love to talk about your business and how you got started with Hard 8 too, and then we'll also go to along the lines after that is, you're a big involvement with the rope horse futurity industry as well, and land and cattle, and you also have another lot of irons in the fire. But what you've done with Hard 8 is impressive to me because, you've done a very well job of marketing, a good job of marketing it because, like I said, I get a lot of people coming in from out of state, even people from out of country. I mean, I've had people coming in from lessons from Australia, and Hard 8 was on the forefront of their conversation as soon as they got here. So how did you get started with the restaurant? And Also, how did you evolve it in such a mainstream way where people from everywhere know what Hard 8 is?
So we started in 2003. Simply before that, my wife and I met in 1995 here in Stephenville. She was going to school at Tarleton. Moving forward, I took on a horse training job in Fredericksburg, moved down there. She and I got married while I was on that job and had our firstborn. And I came back up here and went to work for a professional choice rope company. I'd worked for Classic before that and tying ropes.
So you said you came up here. So you're a native Texan, but you weren't from the Stephenville area.
I'm from Llano, Texas. Born and raised in Llano, Texas.
Because your dad was my neighbor.
Proud of the hill country. Yeah, you were lucky enough to be Jimmy Decker's neighbor. Not many people can say that and laugh about it. Yeah, never a dull moment around that dude, man.
Well, because that guy was a worker too. For me, I've always had a soft spot for horseshoers. And, growing up, pounding on that iron myself and stuff like that, it kept me alive. Pretty much got me where I am today. Yeah. Because my dad said, if you learn how to shoe a horse, you'll never go hungry. Yeah. And there's a lot of truth to that.
There's a lot of truth to that. There really is. And a lot of the time through my younger years, it was just me and my dad. My mom and dad split when I was younger. So, we split up, and my dad, he shot horses. And during that time, you remember a gentleman named K.R. Boultinghouse, Popeye Boultinghouse. And he had a string of horses that was just, everybody just drooled over.
He was a legend.
He was a legend. And one swing, king of the one swing.
And a student of the game. Yeah. Everybody I talked to, man, a lot of people got a lot of advice from him. He was a legend just in his, seemed like just on winning.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And his wife, Jan, on the other side with the barrel horses, it was just that family, the whole family over there is phenomenal people. But, growing up, my dad shod for Popeye. And we'd go over there, and it's been 2 or 3 days because they'd have 25, 30 head of horses to do. And, I grew up, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 years old going over there and seeing T. Woolman, Leo Camarillo, Jake Barnes, Clay O'Brien Cooper, all these superheroes that, you get to watch them on TV, and, they're just such great guys. And they, most of them, like Bobby Harris, he was like a kid at heart, man. That guy, he'd take me to the donut store and we'd hang out. And,
because Llano was kind of the base and hub there for a little while of team roping. Originally kind of came from California, right. then migrated to Arizona. Well, then for a time, when I was first getting started, when I bought my car in '98, Llano was basically the Stephenville it is today.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Everyone came and stayed at Speed, Rich, Tyler T's, Speedy's, sure, Rod Lyman. Then a few other guys had places there along as well, but that was the hub.
That's right. That's exactly right. It was just it was from what, like you just said, what Stephenville is now. That was Llano. And on a smaller version, of course, but still. That was where you came to team rope. And, I grew up, like I said, through my dad shooting horses, and I got to be around some of the greatest horses in the world. And believe you me, there is nobody on this earth that loves horses more than me. I have been infatuated with them ever since I was little. I get along with horses better than I do with some people, for sure. But, just being able to be around those caliber of horses at that young age and appreciating what they do, Dutch, the tripping horse of Tees, that was one of my favorite ones. He sticks in my heart because he was just a big old teddy bear, and just one of the coolest horses that ever lived. And then there was Jeremiah of Guy Allen's, the big black horse, and he was just a typical tripping horse, just big old bucking horse headed and ugly son of a, but just worked his tail off. Yeah. But, and then Leo had Stick and Clay had Ike, and, there was just so many of them that had come through that barn and come through my dad's, and we, sit there and hold them, and it's like holding a superstar, when you're sitting there watching your dad shoe one of the greatest horses in the world. And it made a lasting impression on me to appreciate the equine athlete, for sure.
Yeah, because the horse of the years that came out of, Rich's barn, came out of T's barn, Megazord.
Yeah,
Roni, then he had Speedy over there and stuff when he would bring in all
Viper.
those.
Speed and Viper and
Bob,
all of them.
And Tyler Magnus, he had a few of them with, some of the stuff that he had. Right. I know some legends come out of that string as well. But sure. Llano was that spot where it was gaining a lot of traction and stardom for the team roping world. For sure.
Yeah, no, and like I said, it was just, it it was an everyday trip to Superman world for me with those guys coming around.
Disneyland.
So, yeah, it was. It really was. And,
so then you came up here after, did you go to college, you said?
No, I didn't. I didn't.
So you went to the school of hard knocks.
School was not for me.
I totally understand that.
I got out of high school and, the conversation had been had, I had an opportunity to go rodeo at college and look, I would told the coach, look, don't waste your time and my effort because I'm not going to put the effort to make a class. So there's no sense in you wasting anything on me. And I told my dad, I said, look, this ain't going to be my cup of tea. So I didn't. I went to work and, actually went to work on an environmental remediation company. And, we were following the Texas Eastern Gas Pipeline and working with a pick and a shovel and making a living, doing exactly what my mom said I was going to be doing if I didn't start studying and be digging ditches, and your ass is going to be digging ditches the rest of your life. Well, she was right. And so anyway, that evolved. I got sick of that shit and wanted to be a cowboy. That's all I've ever wanted to be. And I threw the pick and shovel down and I came back to Texas and found Stephenville and found my wife, and then we evolved from there.
Mm-hmm. So you kind of self-made into we're in the business you're at now. When did the restaurant business kind of present itself to you?
So my father-in-law and I were looking to get into business, and my mother-in-law as well, Jicky Nivens, and we're looking to do something together. Carrie and I just had my firstborn, Macy, and, just trying to scratch out a living there for a while. I was working at Professional Choice tying ropes, and then I was picking up broncs and flagging rodeos for Lester Meyer at the amateur shows on the weekends, and then I was moonlighting and training tame horses for Ernest Wilson over here at Toller and going to a few horse shows then. So whatever I could do to scrape $1 together is what we were doing for the longest time. And like I said, we had this plan that if we ever found the right location that we would jump in there and try to do a restaurant deal. So that spot presented itself. And
now, what was that spot?
So it was an old truck stop and just like an old tire store, just an old cinder block building that, hadn't been in use in years. And I was just driving by there one day and I looked at it. I was like, my God, there it is. So
because you catch a lot
lot
of 281.
Yeah, and even more so now than it was. Even 281. It's direct from Oklahoma all the way down to San Antonio. It was a big corridor there, and
because that's what they say. One of the key things on being able to develop a business is location.
Sure, and that
Especially a
location.
restaurant.
Sure, exactly. So, that location right there really spoke to us. And I called my father-in-law on the phone and said, look, I think I found a spot. He drove over. He and my mother-in-law did that day. We went to a real estate office. Just so happened the realtor that we bought the thing from owned the property, paid her cash money, and went to build
to work.
Hard 8.
Now, I'm guessing you've cooked before.
Oh, I was born and raised in Llano. I mean, yeah, we cooked the barbecue, 4-H, FFA fundraisers, everything. That's just the way we did it.
Yeah.
And of course, if you need a little beer money, you could go work at Cooper for a couple of shifts and get you a little beer money. And then,
yeah. So when this started, did it take very long before it evolved to where all of a sudden now, because you've expanded, you've got, how many restaurants do you have now?
We got 5 now. And
so
yeah,
there's expansion there.
No, we got our ass kicked. I mean, because we didn't know what we were doing. We had no idea about anything
now,
about the
kicked,
restaurant.
what is this, first 5 years? First
3 years.
First 3.
Yeah, I mean, none of us had any kind of an inkling of what we were doing in the restaurant business.
So you dove in and we're like, we're going to figure this out as we go.
Let me tell you how dumb we were. The first day we opened, we didn't even have change for the register.
That sounds exactly
That's how
I do everything.
Stupid we were.
Yeah.
We just hey, how are we going to do this?
Got an idea.
And at the end of that first day,
let's just do it. We'll plan this as we go.
Yeah, the hard way. The hard way. That's what we do. Everything.
What do they say? A goal is something you dream of, and then all of a sudden, then you have to have a plan. Then you put it into action.
Yeah, exactly.
I skipped a lot of plans. I had a dream, and all right, now let's do it.
Yeah, that's like putting something together with instructions. Yeah, fuck that. Let's do this way.
Let's just look at the pictures.
I got it. So
we're talking my lingo now.
And we get through the first day, and we all sit there and like, hey, we're having beer after the first day of close. Hey, that's pretty cool. We did all right. And we look around at each other and we're like, we got to do this shit tomorrow. And the day after that, and the day after that, we have created a monster, and we have created something and gone into business of something we don't know what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to go out, hire more help. We had to basically just start from scratch.
So once you dove in, then I guess there's some planning starting to come because now you're starting to gain experience.
Because you start gaining a little experience, but along the way, you cannot tell somebody how to do something unless you know how to do it yourself. And we had to learn the restaurant business and the business side of it in order to train somebody to do it that way. And we didn't go to school. We didn't go to a college. They don't have a how to do restaurant for dummies book that you can read. So we just jumped in and here we are. And God takes care of stupid people and little kids. Well, I'm not a little kid, so guess which one he took care of. And we scratched and clawed and learned a lot from mistakes, and that there's a lot of truth into that saying is you learn from your mistakes and you better in the restaurant business because they're not going to get the second chance to make the same mistake. And every penny counts. Every single penny that you can squeeze out of a profit margin it counts.
So those first 3 years, I'm guessing a lot of mistakes.
A lot of mistakes.
What do you think some of the key mistakes were that really stick out to you?
So in our business, we're so much what we call center of the plate protein is all meat product that the leftovers that you have are a direct reflection on your profit margin. So if you throw away, 4 or 5 racks of ribs a night or a whole sirloin or 4 or 5 pork, you can't reheat that stuff. It's gone. We donate it to the foster home here and try to at other locations, but we've got it down to a science now where at the end of the night, we could probably put what we have left over in a little to-go container.
Which I was also always wondering too, as a restaurant, as much homeless as we have, what was done with that leftover food. That is awesome. I've always thought that was a great place to do it. That is cool.
Right.
That is an option.
Well, I'm not saying that everybody does that, but that's something that we do.
No,
we have the soup kitchens and the food, the homeless shelters that will come pick up food at our Metroplex locations. Now here, most of the foster home takes most of all of that stuff. So, but it just from top to bottom, learning how to schedule people and work around college kids' schedule where you have enough people to run the business. And
this is as employees.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, and trying to have, the right employees at the right place at the right time to say the right thing to the right person at the right time, to serve the right thing at the right person at the right time, to cook it, on all this stuff, we're trying to train somebody to do all the while we're trying to learn how to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
And it made it twice as hard. But I don't think that we would have been as successful and as, I want to say picky, but picky's not the word for it. I want to, we're just very spot on with what we want and what we expect out of our employees. And I don't think without us being through that system that we would be as much in that direction as we would be if we just kind of jumped in and knew all this stuff, and we weren't just learning, as we go. So,
when did you feel like? How long into it to where you feel like you started getting successful with it, and then also when was the decision to decide to grow?
Okay, so my father-in-law, Philip Nivens. Anybody listening to this podcast, JD, I know you're out there listening, so you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. When he was in, he was all in. And it didn't matter if it was a cutting horse business. It didn't matter if it was a bass boat. It didn't matter what it was. If he was in, by God, he was all in. So I get a phone call about 6 months into us opening Stephenville. I get a phone call from him, and he's over here in Granbury, and he's been in the Scotch a little bit. He says, "Come over here. I need to talk to you." Oh, shit. What I do now. So I drove over there. He's sitting there. He goes, "Hey, I just bought that barbecue joint in Brady." I said, "You did what?" He said, "Yeah, just bought the barbecue joint in Brady. So we're gonna shut her down for about 6 weeks and reopen it for deer season. So we're gonna have our second location." I said, "We've only opened this one for 6 months and we still don't know what the hell we're doing. What are you doing?" He said, "Dude, we're all in."
Opportunity.
I think, I guess we are. So we sure did. We shut it down. He and I went over there, and with the crew, we took some college kids that had not done so well at school with us. And we jackhammered some concrete, and we rebuilt restaurants, and we totally remodeled that thing, and that was our second location within 6 months.
Wow. So now you're really jumping.
Now we're jumping. I mean, we're 2.5 hours from one, from each other, and still not knowing what we're doing at all. Well, then the third opportunity presents itself, and this is one that I've used it before. It's called the God thing. And a lot of God things happen to you in life, whether they're good or bad, but you really don't realize it at the time until it happens. And then you understand why it happened. But so just so happened that there was a city councilman that owned a little ranch, a little 5-acre ranch just right down the road on 67. And he was a city councilman for the city of Coppell. He stopped in. He said, "Hey, we need you in Coppell." I'm like, dude, I've just been here a year. I still don't know what I'm doing. No, I don't even want to talk to you. Well, he was persistent. And one Christmas, I want to say it was probably 2006-ish, somewhere in there, 7. There's a phone call that came into the restaurant. The restaurant's compact. It's like the December 23rd. It's packed. We're busy. Everybody's running. Pretty scarce because a lot of kids have gone home for Christmas already, and we're hustling. So I had a phone call about a delivery just down the road. Anyway, I pull my pickup around there, load everything up, take it over there, and I'm unloading this stuff. Well, as soon as I get everything unloaded, I walk back through the garage, and these 2 guys are standing in the garage. And I'm like, "What's up, fellas?" And he said, "Well, we brought you over here for an alternative reason." I'm like, "You fixing to rob me? I don't have no money on me." And they said, "No," said, "we're from the city of Coppell. We're the ones that have been trying to contact you." Said, "We want you to come to Coppell and at least visit, at least look at what we have to say."
Now, where is that located?
It's 1.5 miles north of DFW Airport, where the Bass Pro Shop is off of 121. If you go about 1.5 miles to the east, it's right there.
So up there in that Metroplex.
In the Metroplex. And, that was so far off of our radar when we first started this thing.
Because that's big time when you get up there.
It's huge.
It's going to be a lot of traffic.
It's huge. It's huge. And today it's our best store. But the God thing that happened was this guy, just came out of nowhere. And we loaded up and we went up there and looked at everything. And once again, Philip's all in. Yep, let's do it.
And how far into the restaurant business? How far in?
We're about 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah. And fixing to have our 3rd location up in the Metroplex. And so anyway, yeah, we made a deal with them. They have an economic development plan in place and a nice package and offered it to us. And we got in there and built our 3rd location. And that has afforded us, from Stephenville, once again, the hub that people got to know, has afforded us to go to the Metroplex. And then along came Roanoke under the same precedent. They wanted to redevelop their old town, kind of like a little Mayberry setting. It's called the unique dining capital of the Texas. So they have a Babe's Chicken Dinner House, and they have a lot of unique dining spots along this one little main road in their old town. And
where is that kind of pinned out on the map of Texas? You're
probably a couple of miles from Texas Motor Speedway.
Yeah.
Off of 170 and 377 there. That was our next location. And then that one afforded us to move over to the Colony, the Grandscape area over there. And that's, if nobody's been over there yet, it's off 121 and Plano Parkway. It's the Nebraska Furniture Mart.
You have 3 locations right there in that metro.
Well, I've got 4. I've got another one in Burleson.
That's right, Burleson.
So we're south. We've got 3 central north and then one south, the Metroplex. But yeah, all of them have been because of Stephenville.
That's amazing.
It is. It truly is.
What do you think when you started this? What do you think was what was the challenges of this? But also, like, when you looked at it, what was also easier than you thought it was going to be? Like, when you looked at this, like, what were the challenges you figured you'd be, and then that also came that you didn't expect, and then also the challenges that actually were easier than you thought?
Yeah, I guess one of the biggest challenges, and I think anybody that's in the restaurant business will agree with me on this one, is the employee pool and employees, and employees are your biggest asset. They can be your biggest asset that you've got. They can also cripple you too if you don't have the right person at the right place at the right time. But that was one obstacle that I had never worked anybody before. So having to take that on, that was an unseen for me, was having to take that on and do a lot of training and a lot of one-on-one with somebody that take me for an example. I wasn't trained, but I'm pretty good at improvising and I can get the job done. You got to have that mindset. So A lot of people aren't that way, and they need to be pushed, they need to be pedaled, they need to be shown what to do, and so on and so forth. So that was probably one of the unforeseen things for me at the time. Man, there is nothing about the restaurant business that is easy. Nothing. Like I said, I had a goddamn pick and a shovel in my hand for years, and it was way easier than the restaurant business. There's like I said before, every penny counts. And if you're not counting pennies, you can find yourself upside down. The big one-off unseen for us and anybody in the industry, entertainment industry period, was COVID. When COVID snuck up on us, it was devastating.
Yeah, explain that, because that bankrupted a lot of businesses, especially in the food industry.
Yes.
So how in the world did you guys survive that?
So luckily enough, we are far enough into...
Because there's no books on that one.
There is none. And that was unforeseen for anybody. I mean, nobody would have dreamed of being shut down. That's just unheard of.
Un-American.
Un-American. Like you said, a lot of people lost not only their livelihood, but their lives. Not from COVID, but from the stress of the situation of not being able to feed your family. There have been several family businesses that went under and took people's lives away from them for no reason.
Yeah.
At the time, everybody was in a panic, and I get it. But what they were doing and shutting down the bars and restaurants was totally opposite of what they were doing with convenience stores and Home Depot and, all these other locations. They don't have anybody going there and wiping down bottles that somebody had already touched and put back. We have got a safety protocol in the restaurant business in place that if you drop a fork, we get you a new one, or we wash every utensil that comes through here. We have got to have a safety protocol, and no different than the medical industry. Second only to the medical industry is our food and beverage and food safety handling certificates that we have to have. Tells you that this is the laws that we abide by. And it made no sense at that time why they were doing that to us. It made no sense at all.
Yeah, and luckily we were in Texas.
Yeah. No kid.
That was probably the biggest savior, I think, was the fact that luckily we weren't in a blue state.
Yeah.
Because it felt like Texas, that deal didn't last as long.
And we knew some people that, the New Mexico, Arizona, like you said, some blue states that to this day, they're still under those types of quarantines, and, their government just will not turn loose because they've got a hold of them. Now you're going to have hell getting us to turn loose of you.
Yeah.
And, thank God we were in the state of Texas when all this happened, because I don't know that we would have survived the way we did through this. And the way we did survive, thank God above that we had and been successful enough that we had put some money back. And by no means were we planning on any kind of a, catastrophe like this, but we had enough in the reserves that we could get by. We were completely shut down for 60 days. And then we started doing some curbside and some stuff like that. But, we lost basically all of our employees. Were gone, hourly employees. And we brought back, our staff that were our salary managers to come take in and do the bulk of the curbside stuff. And when we got back to full 100% operations, we got back over 93% of our original employees came back to us.
That's really good.
So we take care of those. We take care of the people that take care of us. We're very, very proud of that fact.
So those are probably some of the things that have helped a lot in how you structure this many restaurants is your employees.
Sure. I've got a gentleman that runs, I want to call him a kid. He's not a kid anymore. Matt Perry, he's our CEO, and he started unloading firewood off of a trailer. And he was here on a baseball scholarship at Tarleton and needed a job, and he started unloading firewood. And today he has worked himself through every single position that there is in that restaurant, and now he runs the entire operation. He's the guy, and
that's impressive.
He does it way better than I ever could. I kind of maybe got a little too old school for the way the employee and the employee handbook reads anymore. So, you can't really just fire somebody on the spot anymore. And I'm not very good at riding people up. So I got put out to pasture.
Well, one of the things I feel like right now is the with inflation being where it's at, the price of food, and all those things, and trying to manage profit, that has got to be extremely difficult right now in this time.
It is. It's extremely difficult. And, I want to say one of our biggest assets is our sheer quantity, that our stores kick out it makes our buying power through the Benny Keiths or the Cisco's or, those vendors that we can step out and buy, tens of thousands of pounds of brisket at one time and not be sitting on it very long, but get a better, 25, 30 cent discount off of that. And being able to go that direction has really helped us a lot. There's a lot of other things. We have people and my future son-in-law being one of them. He just went to work for us, but, the guy that I've got to mention on this podcast is Stan Edgar, and he's been an essential part of us, being as successful as we are. And that's what he has done is built a program in place where he shops several different vendors every day. And whether they're a penny a case off here or 2 cents a case off there, we're going with that penny or that 2 cents that we're going to save that week on that order. Another thing that I've told my guys, especially nowadays, hopefully the economy is going to be turning around. We all know it's going to, but,
thank goodness
thank
for
God.
for coming into 2025 right now.
Yes.
Wow.
So come on, January 20th.
If this didn't make things as obvious as it could possibly be, man, even, you had to be living under a rock not to see a difference between.
Did you not take a breath of fresh air the next day? I mean, did you not feel like you were a better person the next day?
Well, just the businesses that I talked to that were out there in Vegas, and when they came back home talking about this was the best year they've had, they're setting records for record sales out there in Vegas during the all the convention centers, and multiple businesses that I was talking to that was out there, a lot of my sponsors, and they said the excitement, the people are very excited about what's going on. There's a lot of the future looks bright kind of feel going on in the industry.
Yeah. No, I think it was a breath of fresh air for everybody. And not only, I sat there and watched it election night, and I told myself I wasn't going to because I would just get pissed off and be mad at something I had no control over.
Well, I did that 4 years ago.
I'd already voted.
We all did.
I'd already voted. I did my part. And I did that 4 years ago. But that night, the election night, when it was all said and done and everything started turning red, I immediately felt the world changing and the world that we know changing for the better. I speaking for myself, and I know that there's a lot of people out there that can say the same thing, that it just puts you in a better mood, in a better place. You feel like all this wokeness and all this, right-wing, terrible, liberal shit is going to be gone, and we're tired of it.
To be real honest with you, if I didn't have kids, I probably wouldn't care as much. You know what I mean? I can survive. You and I will survive. There's so many of us out there that are growing in our 40s, 50s. We're going to survive. We survived a lot of stuff. Not, if the government came, we know how to bear arms.
Right.
We're not going out without a fight.
Right.
But what was keeping me up at night was the wokeness on what it's doing to our education system when I have kids. The life there, the world that my kids are going to have to live in with the way things were going.
I'm with you 100%.
It was really keeping me up at night. It was really making it very hard to not want to be involved in any way I could.
Sure. If things had gone the other way, then we would be in defense mode of what are we going to do to protect our kids through all this basic tragedy.
Because they're not hiding anymore.
No, that was
what
it.
They're doing.
That was it. That was the breaking point right there. And thank God America stood up and said, enough of this shit.
Thank God. And then we also, my opinion is to continue to keep praying for his safety.
Sure.
Because that is between everyone that I've seen on his administration and everyone's, or not everyone, but I hear a lot of people talking about, well, you're Republican, right wing, this. Now I'm like, I don't even know if I'm Republican, because the one thing I found out through the last few years, those son of bitches are just as sorry too.
Oh my God. Yeah. The whole town's full of those sorry.
If I couldn't figure out that I wasn't more in the middle throughout all this, because you know who I really like, because if it was down to Nikki Haley or if it was down to Robert F. Kennedy, I'd have voted Democrat for him, but the Democrats won't let him in.
Right.
You know, and so what I noticed was what I like about who he has, and all of them are former Democrats.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're all, to me, that couldn't put you more in the middle.
Right.
You know,
Right.
between RFK, I love Tulsi Gabbard. You know, I love a lot of the team that he's bringing in.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
But man, are they going to be...
I am so looking forward to
I am too, but I pray for their safety.
Audit.
Because they are not, Elon Musk, all the people that are exposing stuff, their lives are in some serious danger.
Yes. And I know you and I will never see this happen in our lifetime. And it probably will never happen. But the only way to remedy any of this bullshit is term limits. And I'm talking term limits all the way from the dog catcher to the president of the United States.
Well, I'm excited
Every
about
single
Doge.
person.
I'm excited about Doge to start seeing, because I think they can still keep replacing the puppets.
Yeah.
Even every so many years. But I do like the fact that now I'd like for people to start looking up under their skirt.
Sure.
I want to know I want to know who's pulling the strings.
I do too.
And it looks like that's where they're headed. We got a team right now that's willing to fight for us. And to me, that's an excitement that I have never had.
Yeah, like you said, if we can keep them alive, you know, that's the big if. That day,
because that man,
that
what
one
does that
single
do
day
for the
in
Western
Pennsylvania,
industry?
you know,
oh my gosh,
that's a God
turn.
thing, man.
That's a God
one
thing.
little thing, one little twitch of the head, and that's a God thing. And there's another thing. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but you don't hear shit about that guy.
No,
there's
no,
nothing.
I am a conspiracy
Are you
theorist.
kidding me? There's
to
no,
me,
there's no
stinks.
trail whatsoever.
That stinks.
That kid's 23 years old. He has no social media. There's no part, no digital print about this guy. Nothing.
There's too many things that stink. I tell you what, that stinks. The bombing in Vegas at Trump Tower, that one stinks. You know, tragic what's going on in New Orleans. But when we got borders, we got people that are coming in, and 158 Democrats wouldn't vote to get rid of the people that are sexually abusing our American citizens.
Yeah.
What
about the pardon of the
oh
federal?
My gosh,
are you
pardons.
kidding me?
Yeah.
Who does that hurt?
How does it?
The only thing it hurts.
How does it not obvious now?
The only people that hurts is the victims themselves. That guy is going to sit there on our tax dollar until they plunge a needle into his arm and end his sorry ass life.
Yeah.
That all the atrocities that he's pulled in their, and I'm not saying they pulled in their lifetime, and listening to the stories that they've been convicted of a jury of their peers on, and plain evidence that they did it. That's the easy way out.
Well, I think too is that, like, we understand so much because we remembered we know freedom. We grew up in a world, where, things felt so much more freer than what they did, especially after COVID. We also grew up before the internet.
Yeah.
And so we've seen so many different things, but I think a lot of the younger generation too are getting educated on the fact that the government is supposed to work for us. Mm-hmm. They are supposed to help keeping us safe, and they have lost a lot of track on what their jobs are in that office.
Sure.
And their job is to keep the American citizen and American people safe, right. And they have completely
screwed that
in the wrong direction.
And that whole, the whole border crisis, we all know where that was headed.
Votes.
For Democratic vote.
Yep.
And that,
yep.
So.
But yeah, it's a lot of excitement. I think it's excitement probably got to be in the restaurant business for sure.
The Biden administration has done everything they can do to tax the restaurant and the small business
to make it hard
completely. It's been the roughest 4 years we've ever had.
The amount of restaurants that are not there anymore is wild, especially the mom and pops.
Yeah, the poor mom and pops. The chain restaurants, and I'm just going to, the Chili's and some of these other bigger chain restaurants, they're all corporate owned, and they're owned with, under an umbrella with other things. Luckily enough for us that I have once again said we were blessed enough to be in a position where we could survive.
Yeah.
And we did, and it afforded us some different opportunities and some better opportunities. But those poor people that lost their lives and their livelihood over some stuff that was just uncalled for.
Yes, I 100% agree. And what are some ways where a lot of listeners that are out of state, out of country, you guys do a lot of stuff, website as well too, don't you?
We have a website. Now, I will say this, we have evolved to where we're at by doing minimal amount of advertising. 90% of our success has been word of mouth.
I was going to say that is amazing, because word of mouth to get as far of a reach as you guys have is phenomenal.
I'll credit the Coppell store to that one, because it's in proximity to DFW Airport, and anybody that's got a 3 or 4 hour layover that wants to come see, eat some Texas barbecue, anytime you and I can walk through the door over there, and somebody's going to have their suitcase sitting there beside the table that they're going somewhere. And they travel all over the world, and they come get that experience with Hard 8, and they'll leave with a ball cap or a t-shirt, and they'll go home in Pennsylvania. They'll tell their people about it. Another thing is, Dallas Cowboy football games. We're in pretty close proximity to the AT&T Stadium, so they'll look up Texas barbecue, and luckily enough, they'll come to our place, and we get a big amount of business off the AT&T Stadium. But
well, if you haven't been there, all the meat is amazing. It's great. Like I say, I go from the chicken to the jalapeno sausage to the brisket to the steaks, and you can even order ribeye. And
oh yeah,
but I do not miss the macaroni and cheese and mud pie every single time, man. It is. I'm one of the guys, I don't stray away from what's good. If it's good, I do not jack with it.
That's me.
I don't mess with a winning streak.
You can tell what I'm going to order when I go somewhere. I know exactly what I want. For sure.
Well, so moving into now your passion in the Western industry, you said you've grown up and you've always wanted to be a cowboy, and you've loved the horses. And so now as you're building, you're kind of just getting started, more or less, you said, and the futurity world also is kind of new as well. But you're dabbling your toe now into the rope horse futurity.
Yeah. So this 2000 season was my freshman year as an owner. Purchased my first horses in 2022, I guess, or 23, and we rode them as 3-year-olds the first year, and then we started out Scottsdale last year, and that has been a big time learning curve for us.
Why do you think the reason is that you wanted to get into this?
It's just, I love the horse industry. I used to, I've team roped a bunch of trip steers. I've got the rodeo deal, and got, just like you, kind of got out of my system, and always wanted to be still involved, but I love horses, and I love watching young horses become something, and seeing what their true potential can be. And, I guess that's what got me really excited about this is seeing, my father-in-law was in the cutting horse business, and we had some 2-year-olds around here and could kind of mold them around and watch them go do other things. And then, the restaurant business took off, and that took me away from it. So like I told you earlier, I'm getting to live the second half of my life the way I wanted to live the first half, but I'm able to afford it this time. And, I really, really enjoy, watching these young individual horses and taking it and looking at taking them to the next level and watching them compete and, watching their true potential come out. And that's what drew me into the rope horse deal. Not only, I've got a roping background, but just the new aspect and the futurity aspect of it, and the camaraderie, you and I were talking about a while ago, that, Tate Kirkenslager and Dakota and, Cade Rice. And I've gotten to be such good friends with Joseph and, Billy Jack, and they're just such good people, and they've been at it for such a long time and paid their dues and built their business to where they're successful. And, those guys don't mind sharing a little bit of that success and giving you a little, some pointers here and there. So
when we talked at Fort Worth, and we were talking about that and I appreciate that, you're talking about that you listen to the podcast, and I truly appreciate that. And one of the things you kind of mentioned is, like, you talked a lot about the trainers and some of the owner trainers and things like that, but, a perspective of an owner. And I was like, yeah, that's a really good idea for a podcast, because there is a lot of owners that are currently involved in this game, but also a lot of them sitting on the sidelines kind of wanting in.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are interested. They're passionate about the horses like you. I think one of the things that also really does help is the fact that you do come from a roping background. Mm-hmm. That does help a lot, because you understand the horse, you understand a lot of the competitives and competition and things like that. But I think I would really love the idea for a lot of the people that are outside the industry wanting to get involved as well. Mm-hmm. So when you decided, like, all right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to jump in, what did you have a plan this time, or did you do it like the restaurant business and just had a dream and I'm just going to jump in there and do it?
So honestly, I had talked with Andrew Livingston about this, and he had just moved back up here. He had been in Llano, and he'd moved back up here and was riding a few outside horses. And I said, you know what? let's give this futurity deal a try. And it just so happened to be that pretty close to that Thanksgiving sale that Solo has online. And Melanie had a black stud horse on there that just caught my eye. And Dakin already had been riding him, and the video was great. The horse looked good. I mean, he's just a picture perfect quarter horse type. And I just stayed on the button longer than anybody else and got him bought. So that was
what stood out to you on him besides his look and probably the way he moved. But is there a breeding that you liked, or
he was bred by a horse called I'm a Stylish Gangster, which is just a paint horse, and I was a mare Sheila Shine there was, I guess there's some reining horse stuff that goes in there, but no world championship bloodlines or anything, no incentive blood,
just like the way he looked and the way
just like the way he looked, the way he moved. Anyway, drove up there, picked him up, brought him home. We loped him in some circles, and Andrew backed him in the hill box and went to roping on him, and that sucker took to it like a duck to water. And there was nothing that we showed that horse that he didn't just immediately pick up on. And I guess that was the driving force behind getting the next, 2 or 3 or 4 bought. I wanted to have a string of horses where we could have 2 or 3 on the head side, 2 or 3 on the heel side, and really start building our program with some brood mares, and using this black stud along the way, and evolve him into something that we could stand here and do our beat our breeding program and enhance our breeding program in that direction. But
because where your ownership kind of is slowly, where you talk about your freshman year, you've gone about it a little bit differently than a lot of other owners. You have the place. The facility is kind of in your backyard, between here and over there. You said, what was we went over
Wilkes
there?
Barnett.
Yeah, Barnett's place. And so, are you guys partners in this a little bit as well?
Yeah. So we put our team together.
Yeah.
Andrew rides our head horses. Caleb Anderson rides our heel horses when he's not busted up. When you and your partner, guys got involved, and so did you guys kind of get a game plan on, like, are we going to go the established route with some of the guys, or are we going to kind of make our own trainers and try to do it here? Like, kind of what was your, because it's a pretty unique ownership in the fact that things are right here where you get to monitor it quite a bit. And that's a lot of it. And I'm not taking it away from any of the other guys by any means. There's every kind of horse trainer in the world out there, but when you have it at your house and you have it in your backyard, you get to see what's going on. And if your horse is getting rode every day, or if he's getting rode once a week, or once every 2 days, or whatever, so you get to monitor what's going on. And I'm not by any means bad mouthing anybody's situation or anybody's anything, but having it in your backyard is a plus, because you do get to see the progress and the daily progress, and you get to check in, and it's not a phone call, it's not a video. You can walk out there and watch this little horse work.
Well, also too, that the facility is going to be something that where if he gets hurt, you know what happened.
Yeah.
And the fact of, I've looked at your guys' place over there at the arena. You guys have stalls for each place where you tie them up. Right. Anyone that knows has 3 or 4 or 5, even 6-year-olds, sometimes even older.
Oh yeah.
That when I walked in, I knew exactly what that was for. Because when you got those young horses tied up next to each other, they're probably going to kick, bite, and do all sorts of stupid stuff.
Chewing on the saddles.
That are going to get a trip to the vet.
Oh yeah, always something. They're looking to get hurt in any way, and like you said, I mean, it happens in your backyard, and tragedy does strike, and these animals do get hurt, and we lost that black stud.
Well, I got to see that black horse at Fort Worth. I went up there and watched, and he looked good, because I remember me and Andrew were talking, and he was really picking my brain, which is not a great brain to pick, but I just love the fact that, like, you could tell he was doing that with everyone. Yeah. He was, he's trying to learn, being a student of the game, which to me, I've always liked Andrew about that. He was always trying to get better. He was always thirsty for knowledge, and a great guy. I've always enjoyed, being around him and stuff. And so it really kind of drew me in the fact that I was watching him go, and the horse did look good.
The horse,
he was really, you told me he was 4.
He was 4.
I would have thought I thought he was probably 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Watching him go, he was big, he was strong, he was pretty, and he moved around real mature.
Yeah, he was just a unicorn, man.
So until you told me today that he was only 4, that blew my mind, because that's kind of like, man, this is the one that could really put some traction on, and he was a stud.
Yeah.
And then, which we all know, like, this is the one of the things that is frustrating about this industry and about this sport is the fact that you buy a place and termites show up. Well, there's probably a way you could have checked to make sure that place didn't have termites, because now you just lost a crap load on your investment. And, there's a lot of things that when you get into, probably COVID and the restaurant business, probably pretty similar to probably what we're about to talk about next.
Right.
But, there's so many things. A lot of times there's things that can be foreseen. In this sport, there's a lot of things that can come out of nowhere.
Unforeseen.
A colic, a tie up. And then basically what you said happened on that black horse last month.
Yeah, he just made a businessman run, just a practice pin run, and spiral fracture above the left hock and broke it off, and that was it. I mean, it was over in an instant.
Yeah.
And lost. That was my horse. He was my buddy. He was my barn buddy. He was my first futurity horse. I mean, he had a huge part of my heart. You've had some, that you put the leg over 1,000 of them, but you can call out that one that was pretty special. And I think there's a lot of guys listening to this can attest to that too. And this was my one. He was pretty special. And I'm not dead and gone by any means, but it's going to take a pretty special individual to take his place for sure.
Well, and what makes it really hard, for the guys going down the road. So to people listening to this podcast that, when we talk about when things happen, when you're financially secure, it's devastating. But when you're in this as a contestant or a trainer, as a contestant, I had it happen to me in 2014. I lost my good horse Patron. Anyone going down the road knew him, man. He was a standout. He's a stud of a horse. That was my buddy. That was my pal. That was my running mate. That was the guy we did battle with.
Yeah. You've been all over the world with him.
And when he goes down, now I've lost my livelihood. Now I've got to figure out how to put food on the table.
Now I've got dynamic.
Now there's a certain amount of stress to where, as you're a contestant, when you lose that and you didn't do a good job, like I didn't do a very good job of, is making sure that I had a second, third, fourth, fifth, to where if that went down, I had insurance underneath of it.
Well, you don't really think about it.
Well, also too, as I was middle of building, I had a lot of other things.
So dependent
you're trying to get a place to live, and you're trying to keep, and so I was just hoping that I was going to be able to things go your way to where you can continue to keep doing that. And I have what I had, because I had a good first, second, third string horse. Well, when he went down, my second one wasn't good enough. My third one wasn't good enough to replace that one. So I had to start all over. It took me a couple of years to get back to the NFR after that. And those were some tough situations, as trainers.
Sure.
You have that one that's going to make your name.
Yeah.
You have that one that's going to buy the another set of stalls that you're going to add to your business, and then that goes down, and those devastating things from there.
You're going to stand him outside and breed some mares.
For what you were talking about,
we bought a gold buckle spot for him.
Yeah. Now what you're talking about now as an owner, you had a stud. That's where you're banking on this one. This is a business, and the fact of this one's going to be standing. He's going to be breeding. You had all that stuff. I'm sure probably sold, bought into the, a lot of the incentives in the fraternities.
And the horse. The horse spoke for himself, and Jay Wadhams would be the first one. He'd come up and tell us, man, that black sucker, he's coming along good. Y'all just keep him under you, and he's going to be all right, and he's going to be good. And to hear somebody like that kind of pumps you up, and we had some really, really, really high hopes for that horse. And for some reason, it just wasn't in the cards. So,
yeah, those are the hard blows. Those are the things that definitely can happen. Yeah. What are some of the things you felt like your freshman year that you learned, that you kind of the same thing like the restaurant business? What are the things that you're like, all right, we learned a lot there, and then what are kind of the goals now for 2025?
So we left here. It's funny, man. You've seen this, I guess I call it a meme on Facebook or whatever, but it's like Dumb and Dumber in the van. And they got this smile on their face, and they're going out, and that was us going to Scottsdale. We're in a truck. We're driving out. We're fixing to kick everybody's ass. Yeah. We know what we're doing. Yeah. We're fixing to do it. Yeah. They're going to know who we are when we leave this son of a bitch. Yeah. We left all right. Tail between our legs, got our ass kicked, and come back to the house.
I've been to those things where I'm hoping no one's seen me.
Yeah, we like, y'all don't even know we were here.
Exactly.
Yeah, we got a lot of work to do when we get back to the house. So, that was a big eye opener for us.
What were some of those things you felt like you learned?
Just, the way to set your horse up, the score, the judging, the judging part of it. That was what was so hard for me to understand as an owner, and even traveling with a freshman, a freshman trainer. is trying to understand the score and what they're looking for, and what a certain eye of a certain judge is wanting to see. And
because that's where you're going down a unique route in the fact of you being a first-time owner, like you say, your freshman year. Also, between Caleb and Andrew, this was their first year going into
we're
it as
all
well.
learning this
so
together. And that was the questions that Andrew was, he goes around and visits with you and visits with Andy Holcomb and visits with Cade. Caleb was over there working and helping Cade. He probably knows way more about this rope horse deal than we do, and it ain't very much. And we learned it our first year together, and feel like we've got the knowledge and kind of got that in line where we can go. Still have a lot to learn, but have crossed that hump where we know what we can expect.
Mm-hmm.
For a new owner, and I'm just going to put this out there for the rope horse futurities.
Well, say that first one just to kind of get an idea too here before we skip too far ahead.
Yeah.
But like that first one, did you think the judging was probably the hardest thing to understand?
Yes.
Yeah.
By all means. I mean, and for me,
and I don't mean that disrespectfully.
And I don't either.
Because Jay will be the first to tell you when I got to my first one, he's like, I don't know how many times he had to sit me down, like, no, Charlie, no, this, they can't be shaking their head.
Right.
He opened my eyes up to a lot of stuff because, I'm a roper. I get this. I had a leg beat me, and so I had to, really kind of look at it through a different lens.
Right.
And in return, they did give me a better set of eyes and know kind of what to look for.
And that has been the biggest involvement in our program, is being able to notice those smaller things that they're looking for. Going into Scottsdale, we're just team ropers. A horse can move his head or just kind of quarter a little bit, and it doesn't mean anything to us. You just get by it and go make your run. And it's huge. The set and the handle, the rate, the run, the rate, every single dimension of this is under such a magnifying glass that it's got to be perfect, because you're dealing with guys that are going to be perfect. Their horses are going to be perfect 99% of the time. Trevor, Miles, Tate, Cade, Dakota. I'm not trying to leave anybody out here. Joe. I mean, every one of them guys' horses are going to be as perfect as they can be. And if they happen to slip up, you better be there to capitalize, because it ain't going to happen again. And lightning does not strike twice very often. So,
that's why a lot of people wonder why they win all the time. That's why.
Exactly.
You explained it perfectly.
Exactly. Those guys don't, when the pressure's down, they don't break out in the short go. They don't rope a leg. Hardly ever do you see those guys mess up. Hardly ever. And that's why you see their name at the finish line at every single roping, is they do not mess up. And you have to have that mindset when you get in here. You've rodeoed for a living. There's a lot of pressure there just to put food on the plate for your family. And then, the aspect of these guys, once if you're the new guy coming in, like I'll put Andrew in this position, he's trying to compete with these guys and do make the right maneuvers and do the right thing, all the while trying not to mentally screw this deal up and having that much more pressure on you to make that run and do it the right way. So, it's a different game. People want to call it, team roping. They sit there at Scottsdale at the first one. And like I said, it was our first roping, and I couldn't tell you within 2 points difference what the first place horse was going to do and what the last place horse was going to do. They were so good. They all looked the same. They all looked the same to me. And then through this whole year, once you sit through enough of them, you start seeing the difference, and you start seeing what they're wanting.
Who were you talking to a little bit to where you're starting to develop that eye? Talking to Jay, talking to some other owners, talking to some trainers.
Kevin Stewart, he and I are good buddies, and he's one of the judges, and kind of getting some perspective from him of what they're looking for. T. Woolman over here, he doesn't judge those things because nobody likes him anyway, but he'd be the perfect judge because nobody liked that bastard. So.
Well, he helped me a lot. He judged a couple of them here in Stephenville, and he was good because he would tell me.
Right.
Like he would, no, go ahead and like, he was awesome because, that's what, for me, that's what I was wanting to know.
No, that's exactly what you want to know. And he's helped us a lot. I mean, he's right there next to Andrew, and he comes over and ropes, and he helps us. He's helped us a lot. Mm-hmm. But just picking the brain of Tate, Tate will give us some different pointers, and these guys.
How good are those guys too? On the fact that they dole it out.
They're just, but they dole it out, but that's their livelihood. You know.
Well, that's so wild because you think of anything else like when you have an edge and this is what you're doing for. There's not a whole lot.
You don't see NASCAR drivers telling another car driver how to set their car up. Never.
How did you just win that race? Oh, they just tell you? Yeah,
exactly.
They're not going to do it.
Exactly. No,
that's what's when you talked about the camaraderie of this industry. Rodeo, that's what is so cool about rodeo, the fraternities.
That's the Western lifestyle. You know,
and fraternities especially.
Yeah.
That's what's so wild about that.
There won't be one of those guys if you did good to not come up to be the first one up there. Hey, good job. Keep it up. Y'all are getting there. Good job.
Well, I would have loved to have seen the meme that you guys would have had on Facebook on the way there, and then and then the meme that you would have put on the way back home.
It is a long way back from Scottsdale, Arizona.
That trip, Scottsdale just showed up, and then on the way home,
totally thinking about all this shit in your head. Like we unloaded and just went right to work. We didn't even go to bed. Just get out there. We got work to do. Yeah. But no, that was funny too, because I got one more little funny conversation that happened to us out there. So you get out there and it's the Sun Circuit, and I have never ever been a privilege to any horse shows. I've helped Ernest Wilson at some paint horse shows, but those were like backyard gatherings before. But to be involved in a really true blue quarter horse show, this thing is massive out there. And there's every discipline. There's the halter horse, the Western Pleasure, the lead line, or whatever. And there's these freaking stalls, and these people look like they move their whole house furniture. There's couches and chairs in these stall fronts and all this cool shit. And we got a couple of folding lawn chairs over there in front of our stalls on the south side. Andrew and I are riding. We got a golf cart, and we're riding around there one morning, and nobody gets up and gets moving around these things. I mean, there are people that feed for them. Of course, we feed our own stuff, but anyway, there's nobody moving around. So we get on the golf cart, and we're just tootling around trying to find a cup of coffee. There's no concession stand open. There's nothing. We find this little old lady, and she's riding around on this like a golf cart, like a golf course caddy cart, where you get your drinks and stuff off of that. So she's driving around. She's got these danishes and donuts and coffee and everything in the world in it. And so we pull up there and we start getting our stuff, and I said, well, what do we owe you? She goes, no, it's on the house. It's been paid for. And I said, really? I said, cool. That's cool. She goes, where are you boys from? I said, oh, we're from Stephenville. She said, the cowboy capital of the world. I said, yes, ma'am. Sure is. And she said, where are y'all stalled at? I said, we're over here on the south side with the team ropers. And she goes, this isn't for you. This is for these people. This isn't for you.
There is a line.
Yeah, get your ass back over there where you belong.
There is a line, huh?
There is one.
I remember some of that. Yeah,
there is one.
Yeah, there's a line.
This hospitality tent is not for you, sir.
Not for you. I've been to some of those. I've been to some of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is funny. Yeah, that is a thing. Being a new owner, what are some of the things and ideas and talking points that you feel like would probably help a lot of owners and things like that understand the judging system?
Okay, so I've been thinking a lot about this a lot on my own, and visiting with Kevin Stewart and trying to get a judge's point of view on some things. But I think, and this is my personal opinion, and I hope I'm not committing political suicide here by any means, and I'm not picking on anybody. It's just what the question you asked me as a new owner, what would be beneficial to get new people involved and to better understand the system. That would be to put on, for lack of a better word, a judge's symposium, where, say, we have something over here at 377 Arena. We have 10 head horses and 10 heel horses. And we have a panel of 6 or 7 judges, whatever that might be. Run it just like you would a futurity. Let them judge each run. And then we go somewhere where a venue where there's a big screen TV and have these judges go through their scorecard on each individual run and let us and show us exactly what the difference is side by side of why this horse was a +3 and then this judge had him a +1. What did you see that you didn't see? Let's hear some reasons. You go to a livestock show. At the end of the show, the judge gives a reason why he placed one above the other. And it's a verbal reasoning. You know, you can't do that at this deal. It's you know,
Take too
the
long,
judges'
but-
sheets are
yeah.
available.
Yeah.
But you still want to know, hey, what happened here? You know, you got my horse a 1 over here in the box and the score and the rate, and he put him a 3 over here. What did you see that he didn't see?
So what you're saying too is because one of the things I know Kevin talked about too was a lot on the podcast we did. A lot of it has to do with angles, you know, because what you wouldn't have seen on the side might have been a lot different than on that
Sure.
side where you had a better view of it. So there is that. But I think what you're saying is if they both had the same view, how is there that much different in the judging?
Exactly. And for me, and I'm speaking personally for myself at Fort Worth, you know, there's a whole coliseum full of people that are there to watch this. And I've had, I don't know, a dozen conversations with new owners or new prospective owners that want to know, hey, that horse looked like he was just as good or better than the last one. How come he was 5 or 6 points less? Well, I can't answer that. But, you know, and talking to Kevin, you know, I'm like, dude, why is this way? And, you know, it looks the same to me. And he said, man, I'm sitting there in the stands. I've got 8 seconds to judge 7 different maneuvers. And you can sit here and video the thing on your phone and replay it 15 times.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be human error in there at some point. And I get it. And there is. And I'm not sitting there saying that there shouldn't be. All I'm saying is for a new owner, it would be beneficial to the industry to have a better understanding of the scoring system and hear it from these judges of why this is this. Why did you not see this? Did you see this? And what are y'all looking for? What's our common goal here?
I agree because that's the one hard thing about this industry. And one of the things that makes this industry great is our tradition.
Sure.
And it seems like there is a lot of people that this is the way we've done it, and this is tradition, and a lot of times those are sometimes the people too that complain when there's not enough money in this industry.
Right.
That also bitch when all of a sudden then money starts showing up in the industry.
Right.
It's amazing how a lot of times you'll get in your own way.
Right.
You know, and where I think it's so intimidating for new people to come in this industry is there's so many things where people are not almost welcoming a little bit and to where there's an understanding, like how, you know, to do things in this way and this is how we do it and stuff. And so sometimes the slowdown, I think, would be beneficial to where there's a way to introduce people into the industry. There's a way to introduce people into so I like what you're saying as new owners and things, to where there's an availability where, you know, if people are trying to get to know what to look for to where they have a better understanding.
Yeah,
of it.
I think that would be, you know, beneficial to the industry as a whole, because there's so many people that have seen this and want to be a part of it and want to be a new owner. I've talked to several. There's a lot
it's
of
a
people out
horse
there
in the race, like in the racehorse business.
anymore. You try to sell a horse or somebody's asking about a horse, even a 2-year-old, 3-year-old. Well, is he incentive? That's the first word. It's not, is he crippled? Is he sound? Is he, you know, is he crib? You know, is he incentive? Is he incentive bred? That's a game changer. It's a huge changer for the industry itself. But if you're going to take this rope horse business to the next level and get the amount of growth that is possible out there, you need to do a better job of schooling the new guys and putting that out there. Look, if you were to have once a year put on what I call this symposium, whatever it might be, it's up to me as an owner whether I want to go to it or not. And if I don't, I made that choice to not be a part of it. And if I go in there and get my ass kicked, then so be it.
It's on you, right?
At least give that owner and charge a tuition. I'm not saying that it needs to come out of pocket with this deal. Charge us to come to this thing. It's a shortcut in the long run before you spend $750 at every futurity all year long and learn, you know, what you could in one afternoon or one day.
Well, and that's just one side of it. That's not even counting what it cost a month to train them.
Exactly. And then all your hotel.
The right or wrong way.
Yeah, your travel, your hotel rooms, your trainer. It's a shortcut to, it could be an avenue for shortcuts to success for a lot of people.
Yeah. No different than in business, the amount of seminars you can go to get on the right track to run a business. Competition breeds success. It really does. And in the industry that we're in,
These horses have got 3 years from the start of their competitive life to the end of it, and then there has to be a life after that.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that life be a rodeo horse, which you and I talked about, 1, maybe 2% of these horses can go and be of that caliber rodeo horse that's expected of them. The rest of them are going to be jackpot horses, from your number 5 roper to, whoever. But that's the people, the people like me, the independent business owner that want to be a part of this thing and want to have their own breeding program or have their own rope horse program. And there's plenty of us out there. This would be an avenue to really get people to concentrate and say, look, I'm going to go do this. And it would be good for the industry to say, look, we're going to do this for you guys. This is what we want. We want to welcome you in here. This is what we want to do. Let's make this happen.
I do. I think that's a good idea. I do. I bet that wouldn't take long before the person with the ears that will actually listen to it and hear it. I bet
it's just my perspective as a guy that's gone to every futurity that we could all year long. Put in the work, put in the time, put in the money. Put in the dedication to make it happen. I wish that would have been available for me to get started. It would have been really beneficial for me and my freshman trainers to have something to go to like that and jump in here.
I agree. What were some of the goals that you feel like coming into this? Because there's kind of a line between I'm in this to make money and this is a hobby.
If you're in the horse business to make money, Melanie Smith and Aaron Ty can make money, but the rest of us are just looking down the barrel of a gun. Been making millionaires out of billionaires for years. So, no, you got to have the passion for it. There's no part about this that's not going to be expensive. The vet bills, the feed, the trucks, the trailers, the tires, the wear and tear, the trainers, every part of the horseshoe, every part about this thing it's got a financial contribution to be made to it. But the pure enjoyment of being able to see something that you've created be something that's the best in the world. I've got a little filly that me and my dad bought, and she came out of Boyd Rice's program, called her Big Booty Judy. And Caleb had rode her. Kirby Blankenship started out riding her. Then he won Cheyenne and screwed up and stayed out there the rest of the summer rodeoing, trying to make a living. And so then Zane and Hayes Bruce got on her, and then Kirby came home, decided he was going to train horses again, and then took him another job, so that was out the window again. So then Caleb got on her, and Caleb rode her several different shows, and then he ends up breaking his down leg, and then we got to find another rider. So Billy Jack rode her a time, and then he ended up having his catch rider get on her. And this mare has phenomenally produced for everybody. She's the steady Eddie. She's the one, I had all my eggs in one basket with that black stud, and they was my pride and joy. But this one here, she just continually just stays the course. And Lane got on her at the finals, and he was an incentive run, and Lane Reeves. And we're like, I don't know, we're 232 on the first one or something like that, and come back on the second one, we're 218, and had one kind of get in the dead corner right there and just kind of just washed out right there, hard to show, kind of 218. Third one, he draws a screamer. Billy Jack, he gets it on her at the back end and comes around there, and she just wears him out. 238 in the third round. I'm like, we got this in the bag, baby. So, well, guess what? Big Joe, he's about 2 next. They 240 him on, 2 down. So we had the air in our balloon for about 2 runs. And then,
I tell you what, when you hit the 238s though, that was doing
at
something. That's when you have something.
At the back end of that thing, that was amazing. So it put us into the big show finals and then the incentive finals. And we ended up 5th in the incentive and 15th in the world. But to have our first year, that success of being able to be at that show at that time and to walk away from there knowing that you have one of the best heel horses in the entire world, it's pretty satisfying.
So a lot of times they sell the dream in these things too, and I think they probably do the same thing in the horse racing world.
Sure,
but you're having a horse in the race. I never really had that till I sold a couple of my good ones, and then I've kept up with where they're at the rodeos
Right.
when they're winning good. And
Right.
it's fun. It's fun to watch that. And that does create that excitement where you have something and you're watching it and it's getting better.
You just recently sold another one to put on the road, didn't you?
I did. I did. And that's kind of been my outlook with some of my horses because, I do as many clinics as I can. If I can get between 40, 50 clinics a year, I'm doing it. Like
Sure.
I enjoy doing it, and that's where I make my living. And my goal is to be able to do well enough to be able to put some things in place to where I can get a few more of them. And kind of like what you were talking about, my goal is to be able to, when I get in this a little bit more, and when I enter this a little bit more with a few more horses, I want it to where it's enjoyable. I don't want it to be work. I've outgrown that side of it.
When it becomes a job, I don't want to be a part of it anymore.
But where I try to, when one ages out, like for me is, I have the one that I had last year age out, and he wasn't real showy, but he's a nice horse. He's on the line right now of like, do I feel like he's going to be an upper level horse, or is he going to be the jackpot horse like what you're talking about? And so that's where I kind of find out where their line is. And a lot of it has to do with how well they score. A lot of it has to do with their foot speed, how well they can make things happen, or if they're just nice and easy. So there's so many levels of what you're kind of trying to find. But what are some of the outlooks, or what are some of the opportunities it feels like that you have when your horses start aging out? What are some of the plans that you have with them?
So, I'll take and back that up a little bit. Not every one of these horses is going to make a show horse. As much as we would love for them to, it's not going to happen. Just not in their cards. They're going to be good. They're going to be good at something. We try to get to that point before we take them, anywhere on the road. Our goal is to make sure, if they're going to be that performer, then they get to move across the highway and go to the big barn, the big show. Anything south of that, we're going to ranch on them. We're going to jackpot on them. A lot of them are just going to be really good using ranch horses, and we've got the capabilities of riding these horses on a lot of outside country and doing a lot of putting their work clothes on them and turning them into a special ranch horse for ourselves or somebody else that needs something solid along the way to go gather cows or sort through the gate or drag some calves on and be proud to wear that HW on their hip, and hey, that's a nice horse and it's got my brand on him.
Because that's another opportunity that you have, is also another business you have, is Hardway Land and Cattle, which is probably one of the best things, in my opinion, to get that horse out of that arena.
For sure.
Go use them. Go let them think for themselves. Let them feel what freedom feels like. Get used.
Yeah. No, that's
because they can get soured in that arena fast if you ain't careful, especially at that young age.
Yeah, and a lot of them can't take it, and a lot of them won't take it. And that special individual that can stand in a stall and be dragged out, once or twice a week and take them straight to the roping pen, and they're just not going to. First of all, structurally they're not going to hold up. They need to get out and go on some long trots and see some outside country, see some different things.
So you have those opportunities with getting them outside, and then you have them where at your facility too. You're starting the 2-year-olds here as well.
Yeah, we have our own. Like I said, we're on a breeding side of it too. We're just now developing and we're getting into we're breeding our own brood mares, and we bought some mares that have already been bred. But that aspect, we're going to raise some, and we're also going to, we'll buy some outside yearlings. But this place here in my home where we're at is our 2 and 3 year old operations, and that's what we'll do here. And if they get a chance to move on to the show world, that's when they go to Wilkes and Andrews, and that's when we put the sauce on them over there. Mm-hmm. But everything here, we'll have a 2 and 3 year old year. We'll break them right here, and then we'll start using them outside, gathering cattle on them, moving cattle around, getting their feet under them, learning how to go through rocks, learning how to go through brush, learning how to make a living, and then
using their feet.
Yeah, using their feet and their balance, and just let you be a horse. Just go out there and see some deer jump through the brush, and it just makes a better animal out of them.
Yeah, I agree. So you're talking about too is, sending them over there where they're starting to get used, and, your 2 trainers, Andrew Livingston, he rides the head horses, mm-hmm. and you have Caleb Anderson on the heel horses. Mm-hmm. And I watched Caleb a little bit last year too on the head side. His heading looks good.
He does. He looks really good. Yeah, he looks really good.
But man, he had the nightmare of what any trainer would have. I would say my biggest nightmare, I would think, is getting hurt, mm-hmm. because you're making a living with your hands.
Right.
And if you get hurt, you're effed.
Yep. And it's exactly
because that is not. You can't make money if you're hurt.
Yeah.
And when you're in a business where it requires your hands to move, there's no workers' comp, there's no nothing like that. that is the nightmare of a trainer is
Sure.
if you're going to do this, don't get hurt. That's rule number one.
And he and Carrie are sitting there with 2 little ones.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of them just hadn't been born very long, and they're little babies. And, he's got a barn full of horses over there. And like you said, that's his livelihood and he's the breadwinner. And, Wilkes and I made sure that they got what they needed. And
so I think too, it's really good too, I think for, like I say, owners that are on the fence and that are listening to this and talking about some of the guys that are almost wanting to know the industry. That's one of the things that I love probably the most about this industry is how much people take care of their own.
Sure.
This industry does a really good job when someone's down, people step up.
Sure. And you see that time and time again. There's no end to the humanity that goes along with the cowboy lifestyle and the cowboy world.
Because if you guys have owners, that's what I'd heard is you guys made sure that things were taken care of even when
we paid him exactly what he was paid. He's been paid. It's nobody else's business, but if you heard it.
I just think it's really cool though, for one, the good guy that you are. And for another, I think what people is so appealing to this industry is when the people hear that and they're like, what? Like, yeah, no, when somebody's down, like you help them up.
Well, I mean,
like I heard with Caleb Driggers.
Yeah.
I was talking with Cade Rice this morning and he said Caleb did a stallion.
Yeah. Stallion auction. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was to help out Caleb.
Yeah. And it's just, that's the kind of guys that these people are. And if you don't want to be around those type of people, you just go somewhere else, man.
Mm-hmm.
And these, the humanity that goes along with the lifestyle of being a cowboy and being able to lift somebody up. Cause hey, listen, the business we're in, it's not if you get hurt, it's when you get hurt. And being able to lift somebody up and lend a hand if you're able to, it's not a charity. It's not it's not to make you feel good. It's the right thing to do.
And I think too is that, when you're getting your start out here, you can't afford a lot of the things that, in case those rainy days happen.
Sure. No.
And a lot of us understand that. We were all there at one time.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's what's pretty cool about when the guys have the opportunity able to step up. And,
right.
And that's like say very attractive about what this industry also helps do.
And that's another thing about Caleb is, and he and I have gotten to be pretty good friends and pretty close. And through all this, we've gotten a little bit closer, but you never ever once seen that guy bow his head and feel sorry for himself. He's been right there and rooting everybody on and can't wait to get back in the game. Got some really good ideas and it brings a lot of stuff to the table. And, that guy's handy. He is really handy with a rope and his horsemanship is getting really, really good.
Well, and he's a good guy. He's one of those guys. He's hard to get to know, but because he's so busy, and what he's trying to do for the industry. The ropings that he puts on, the fraternities he's getting started. He's a freaking rope. Yeah. He's a team roping director for the PRCA. If that's like want to slam your head into a freaking sliding glass window,
No.
and trying to compete and win the world. I mean, good Lord, you don't do that job for the money.
No,
you know what I'm saying? You're doing that because you're trying to make it better.
Yeah, no good deed goes unpunished.
And that one's tough. But
I couldn't.
So
imagine.
I see what he's trying to do for the industry. But I can't tell you how many times I've had kids that have came over and roped, or I've roped with them, or something along the lines of, they said that I think it was a U.S. final. Someone told me, it was a young kid, and they said they were high team back and he missed. And they said, I think it was that night that the kid told me he had an unexpected text message, and he said, "Hey, this is Caleb Driggers."
Really?
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy he is, man.
And he said,
that's a true...
He said, you don't put your head down because you're too good.
Yeah, that's a true mark of a champion right there.
I mean, that's and I think the kid said that, but he said, I didn't even think Caleb had my number. Yeah. So he had to actually go out there and try to find it. But, to me, that's a good-hearted dude.
And that's the type of person you want to be associated with.
And that's the type of guy, too, we love having, as a world champion.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, he's the textbook, he's a textbook personality. He's a textbook, superhero.
Yeah.
And especially for these kids growing up. Because like we were talking
agree.
about earlier, there's so many that aren't. It's refreshing to see the ones that are.
Well, it's going to be good for our industry, and it's going to help it grow, and those seeds he's planting is going to be some that kid's going to do the same thing for somebody else.
Sure, yes, and pay it down, pay it forward. I really enjoy, I enjoy being around these guys, and Jay and Lindsay and what they've done with the rope horse futurity and even the gold buckle with Jeremy, my neighbor, he's part of that deal. And,
Jeremy Barwitz.
Yeah,
I've heard a lot of really, really good things about that guy.
He is a super, super good guy, and my neighbor and a friend of mine. And that guy, his mind is just going all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And what he's done with Western Bloodstock and the sales and stuff that he does, it's amazing to see what he has produced and what he can put together. And, and Jay and Lindsay's deal is great, first class operation. It's an awesome association. And then the Gold Buckle is right along there with them. I just wish that, they had more events. It's kind of hard to sit on your pocket for 4 to 5 weeks and come on, let's see another one. Give me another chance. Give me another chance.
Yeah, sometimes coming back home and sharpening up that axe is needed. And there's sometimes you're like, man, this thing's sharp. I want to keep it. Yeah. I want to keep it moving.
Yeah, ours just won't stay sharp very long.
That happens. When
we hit a lot of rocks with ours.
those young horses, man. It can go from one day to the next for sure.
So I've heard you use the language in some of your podcasts that iron sharpens iron, and that's for true. I mean, and you see these guys, and even us, behind the chutes and the ones that are the camaraderie that you see with these futurities, everybody's talking and sharing amongst themselves. And hey, you might try this, you might try this bit, you might do this, you might do this different, and it's just like you said, it's the cowboy mentality, it's cowboy way of life.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, it is. That's a special industry for sure, and it's something I really enjoy being a part of. And we had talked earlier, about I was dealing with some other things and some other stuff, and it's just one of those things when I get in that amongst those guys, I've gotten to the age now where I enjoy getting better. I enjoy learning things, and you're always going to learn when it comes to this. Horsemanship's like the Bible, man. It's a book that never ends. Yep. There's always new things that's coming up and learning and breedings and things like that. But just to be around winners, man, those guys all were such good winners, and it's such a culture that the next person is acting that same way and how they're doing it. So yeah, it's a fun industry for sure. What are some of the goals you have for 2025? Like, what are some of the futurities you're going to go to this year? So we're going to go to everything that Jay and Lindsay have put on with the American Rope Horse. Of course, we'll go to our gold buckles. We'll go to the Riata. We'll go to the Royal Crown. We've got some incentive horses available this year that are coming of age, and I think between Wilkes and I, we've got about 40 head of horses that we can, from 2-year-olds to 5-year-olds right now. So everything's within that age term where we can kind of get a trailer full, and that's another thing that I've learned through this. If you've got one horse, that's great. Make sure he's really, really good. But the more bullets you have in your gun, the more opportunities you're going to have. So if you can get 4 or 5 that you can put together and put on a trailer and can afford to do it and would love to do it, it's going to give you more opportunities to place. Yeah. It's also going to give you more opportunities to lose money. But yeah, more lead is going to hit something. Sure. It just gives you that much more of a leverage. But the biggest thing to take away as far as a trainer or an owner is take advantage of the situation when you can, because they don't come along very often. And these guys are extremely hard to beat because they don't mess up. And that's the way they make their living, and they've done it for a long time, and they're very good at it. Mm-hmm. But they sure don't mind helping you along the way too. Yeah. Yeah, I would totally agree with that too. I gotta give a shout out to Brock Hansen. He's been one of our biggest helpers this year. And I don't know that I've ever heard a knot drawn like he was helping in the paint horse show right there before the rope horse futurity. And I think I've heard you even talk about it a little bit on your podcast. He threw a head loop one time, and that sucker's still popping through that building. I've never heard a knot pop like that. And that guy's such a hand on both sides, and he's helped us a tremendous amount through this year with helping Andrew on some, maybe you do this, maybe you do that, and just been a really good friend to have. Yeah, really good. And I'll tell you what, the help is huge at these things. You got to have somebody that you can depend on, and somebody that knows your horse and knows what he needs and knows what you're on, because some of them may need to
may need to be roped on that third or fourth hop. Some of them may need to be roped on that second hop. Maybe they're good at this and they're not all good about going across the pen. So it helps them set that horse up for some more success.
Well, and I think too, as owners are coming into this, there's certain things too that I think is difficult to understand sometimes in this industry. I was talking to a group of guys that had some owners and stuff like that, and they were very, very successful. Everything was on a spreadsheet. Some of these guys that are owners, man, they're sharks. They're in a shark world, and so if this person isn't producing, they're fired, and there's another person going to replace them, right? And so that's where I've seen some of that stuff happen to where the owner's like, hey, this guy roped a leg here 2 times in a row. We need to find a new guy back there. And like for some of them guys to understand, it's like, no, like this is the best healer in the world. Like to replace him. Yeah, it happens. Things happen, Sure. He slipped the leg because, or he roped the leg because of steer drug, or, there's so many things and variables that can happen. Yeah. Well, they're wanting to replace him right off the bat. Well, then it doesn't take long. It's like, hey, how come so-and-so isn't healing for you? Well, the owner, wanted to replace because he roped a few legs in a row. Well, then that next healer, like then there's that added pressure.
Yeah, added pressure.
So there's a lot of kind of lanes too that I think for owners too that to make sure that you understand it as well. Yeah. Because that's if a guy can almost be like Jerry Jones, if a guy's not careful, you can be adding so much pressure the team doesn't even function.
Perform. Yep, yeah, exactly. I'll never forget. So when Caleb got hurt and Billy Jack got on a horse we called Bobcat, and he come around there and roped a leg on the first one in the finals, and he sent me a text and he said, "Man, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have roped that leg." And I said, "Well, you didn't have to do it on purpose, did you?" He's like, "No." I said, "Well, what the fuck you worried about?" Excuse me, what the hell are you worried about? Yeah. He's like, "No, I guess that's one way to put it. Keep going."
Yeah, because there's no one that feels worse than those guys. I mean, that's just like letting somebody down.
But you talk about pressure.
So if anything, among the lines of feeling like they did it on purpose is completely crazy.
Yeah. So, that we all talk about the event that they had in Utah, and that was a special,
game changer, wasn't it?
Special place. And Reggie and those guys did such a good job putting that together. And
the Richards. And,
it's top to bottom. It was the most enjoyable atmosphere. The arena's right on top of that mountain, and
beautiful,
you overlooking that huge American flag, and they just felt great. Yeah. And the amount of money that they put up, and I've heard they're putting even more this year. So that's a game changer. You're exactly right. And then to see Joe walk out of there with 200 plus,
yeah, the time to peak is there, and then Joey did it. He freaking did it.
And that guy, just being around him a little bit at these futurities is just a cool guy.
There's no more fun of a guy hardly for me to hang out with than that. Like,
no, and look, we're barely on first name basis, but you meet him for the first time, you feel like you've known him your whole life.
Exactly right. Laugh. Cool, I know. Yeah. I don't laugh probably more than any other partner I've ever had than with that guy. Yeah. Now we've also, when we roped together, we've also dang sure butted heads and thrown buckets and squared off, but it's almost like a brotherly bond.
Sure.
But when I go to these futurities now, I don't want to go down that route 1 ounce ever again. Right. I want it to be fun.
Right.
And so when I have that guy healing for me, I'm going to have fun.
Yeah. No, it's too much pressure not to have fun. Yeah, exactly. You've got too much going on. Just go have fun, and whatever happens. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm. What so as far as to help some of these young trainers out, because you're in the middle of kind of almost mentoring those along as well. Mm-hmm. For a young trainer coming in and wanting to get into this, what are you looking for? So as an owner, what are you looking for in that trainer? What are the things that he needs to be aware of?
Well, I guess first of all, your dedication to your craft, and that work ethic, that it's 30 degrees or 28 degrees this morning. I think I might just kind of hang out around the barn a little bit. We were over there a while ago, and Andrew had his coveralls on and his,
looked like the kid on the Christmas story.
Exactly.
I don't know. He swung his rope as stiff as the board.
He'd already been on 15 or 16 that morning, and he was finishing what he had left to do. So, that work ethic as an owner, and that dedication.
And just so everyone knows, it was in the 30s today.
Yeah. It's in the 30s today. And, but that's Andrew every day. He was working New Year's Day, and there's nobody. And I'm just going to brag on him. He's like my little brother, and believe you me, we butt heads and we've thrown buckets or wanted to, and just, I have the respect for him that he has mutual respect for me. But the work ethic that he has is second to nobody. And his dedication to the craft is his wanting to learn. His freshman year being with the freshman owner, I think, it was the blind leading the blind for sure, but we learned a lot together. And being able to take that, to the next level together means a lot. Now, I will say this, and you can attest to that. Andrew spent his time in the trenches and visiting with you guys and visiting with, and going and roping with Caleb. And I know he spent a couple of hours with Andy Holcomb and, just going from guy to guy and trying to get, what am I doing here? Showing them videos. What do I need to do here? What do I need to do there? What do I need to look at here? That sort of the mentality and the question that you ask is, what would I give a young trainer? Is don't be afraid to ask. Don't have the personality that you're not above asking somebody for advice, because somebody's always going to have a little different way of doing things that may make you that much better of a horseman, or it may make that horse that's underneath you a better horse because of that. And despite of what you're doing. So don't be afraid to cross that bridge and ask somebody something.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because a lot of times too is you might ask two different trainers the same question, and they might say almost the same thing, but one of them just said one little thing that made it make sense.
Yeah.
So
even, like I was listening to the podcast.
Because to try to explain feel is hard.
It's hard.
It's
extremely hard. And I was listening to the podcast that you did with Andy. And one thing that guy, it stuck in my head is he gets on so many horses, and it shows he has a cheat sheet of every horse because he can't remember. So he has to go back and look at his cheat sheet, cheat the inside rein, use a lot of outside leg, don't be late. That's another thing. Scoring is everything at these futurities.
Sets up the whole run.
Everything. That's the ticket to winning is how you start.
Yep. Because it lets you get there before the steer gets away if you hit that start just right.
If you don't,
and you're chasing, and it's hard to show when you're chasing.
At the back end, you can't do it.
Yeah, that cheat sheet, that was wisdom, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean
that was a lot of knowledge.
Every trainer that doesn't have that photographic memory needs to use that as a tool, because I guarantee you.
Well, I got Joe Biden as a man. I forgot yesterday already. So I mean, that was when he said that, I was like, oh, that's right down my alley.
Yeah, no, I would take that everywhere. I mean, honestly, that was one of the smartest things I've ever heard anybody that had done, and take that as a, and he uses that as one of his main instruments is that cheat sheet of what I've got to do on this horse to show him to his best possible ability.
Yeah, that was wisdom. I talked to Cade this morning, Cade Rice, and was asking like what his thoughts were on young trainers and stuff. And, and he was like, man, to make sure like when, they're watching them, like when they go to a show and, do they look professional? Are they carrying themselves well? Is their horses clean? Do they clean their stalls when they go to the shows? And, he was breaking down a lot of that stuff of, when you're going to treat this as a business, for them owners to understand is how they present them horses. Do they look good? Or they,
I'll agree with that.
And the little stuff like that. A lot of little things
like
too.
Like you said, facilities. When you pull in somewhere and you've got a $40,000 investment in an animal, you don't want to leave him somewhere where they just got, and not everybody can have the perfect setup. I know that, but you don't want a 12 by 12 portable panel stuck out in the middle with no shelter, no cover, or, it's just not, I wouldn't have that good, warm, fuzzy feeling that my horse is going to be safe in a situation like that. Yeah. And to each their own, but making yourself presentable at all times, being professional at all times, having respect of that owner and listening to what they have to say, because in the end, they are your boss.
Yep, that's right. What so do you guys have any breedings and stallions, anything like that you guys are promoting yet, or are you guys still kind of in the process of it?
Well, we had a stallion that we were going to promote, but that God saw different ways for me there. But so no, to answer your question, we're back to the drawing board on that one. Looking to a lot of out, and it happened this late in the year. A lot of stallions are already booked, so just trying to get in there and look at some of the mares and look at some of their lineage and match it up with some stuff that's still available, and just try to start over.
Yeah.
That losing him took a big toll and put a big hole in our program, top to bottom.
But just like anything, I'm sure within them 3 years and 4 years and 5 years, you'll be amazed at all those, just like business.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it's like I said, God has a plan. You just don't know what it is yet.
Because that's what it's going to take. I think when you're getting into it, it's going to take some time.
Sure. No, and this industry is all about time. If you're looking to get in here and make a huge splash right off the bat and, get rich quick, and if you're going to do that, you need to go do something else, because it's not, this is a long-term investment.
Yeah.
And you have to stay hooked.
We had talked earlier too about how much, when we were at lunch, how much your passion and my passion are a lot similar in the military and stuff, and how much you guys have helped Liberty and Loyalty in our branding and things like that. With Hard 8, with the, supplying food. I've had that clinic in my house since 2014, and you guys have catered it every single year. And also along the same lines of when we have our branding here in Stephenville, you guys have always been involved. So we was talking about at lunch this morning too, your passion for military and first responders as well.
Sure. Yeah. So like I said, I personally didn't serve in any branch of the military. Both my grandfathers did. It's something that I feel like is very special to me, is to be the one that's trying to pay back those guys that have sacrificed everything, and ever how little that might be, a barbecue sandwich or a raffle item or an auction item or something like that. It's the whatever I can do, whenever I can do it. I feel like that's something that is near and dear to my heart. These guys, they go off into foreign countries and fight an unknown enemy, and they put themselves in harm's way so we can sleep at night and raise our family the way we want to raise them and not be told how to do it. So there's a lot to be said for that. And then the local gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, that keep us safe in our own communities. And it's a worthwhile cause. It's a very rewarding cause to be these guys are, to be a part of something like your Liberties and Loyalties deal, the banquet that you put on the other night. Amazing to be a part and be in a room full of guys that, that have served, but are now turning the page and being home and wanting to be a part of the Western and cowboy lifestyle. And to see how excited those guys were to get up there and get their back numbers. I mean,
that was cool. If
you didn't tear up, man, you got no heart.
How about our World War II veteran?
I got a chance to visit with that old tooth, man. He was cool. He was so cool. Yeah,
because we're all coming off our optimism and excitement off the election.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And he came in and set the tone. And to have a World War II veteran in this day and age they're tough to find.
Don't happen.
And he was a hoot.
Yeah. No, he was so funny. He was actually at the table right next to us, and we got to visit with him a little bit. And it was a very special night.
It was fun to be able to show the guys and gals, like my give back, like this was the things that I got to do while you guys were fighting for my freedom. These are the things I got to go do while you were keeping me safe and my family safe, and to let them get that experience of being on stage and get a back number for making the top 15 to the NFR showdown, to rope with the NFR guys that they're about to watch on TV, to get a chance to rope with them earlier that day and that week and stuff. And it's fun to get creative on ways that you can show them what I got to do. And then, for God to be able to put it on my heart to use me to basically, these are the things that I got to do that were a skill set that could help so many people would just blow my mind. You talk about a God thing. And that's, for me to think of being a team roper and to be able to, and I'm not trying to sound arrogant on this podcast, but the text messages I get throughout the year on how many lives have been changed by just this opportunity of between either raising money and helping their families, homes, but then just the experience that this roping does. Yeah. It's great to see just in the branding we do. I mean, that's huge for a lot of guys. Well, to get to go back to history. Yeah. This is how the Western way of life presented.
And it's something they get to step out of their norm. And trying to, there's no way I can sit here in this chair and try to put myself in their position and their perspective on life. But I think a lot of times in their situation, they're caught up in a daily grind in their world where they don't, that appreciation is taken for granted. And
especially if you watch the news.
And that's what I mean. I mean, those guys, they're not
shit on in a way.
Yeah, shit on exactly. And to come be a part of something like that, and no matter what they're dealing with mentally, and I know a lot of guys struggle with some mental problems, and rightfully so. Seeing some of the things that they have to see, and some things that we've trained them to do. Being able to come home and have that release, and be able to hang out with the genuine, truest of true people, and, to be able to rope and be a camaraderie with a whole nother group of people that are just like you, but I've never met you before, but we have a common understanding, and now we have a common goal. And that's for me to kick your ass in the team roping pen.
Yeah.
And, to be able to watch the smile on those guys' faces when they walked up there and got that back number, that was special, man.
Yeah,
Very
it was
special.
cool. And I was so honored that you came to our gala this year. It was fun because you've been with me. You're one of the guys that's been with me through this when this whole thing started in my
I told
backyard.
you, I'll be there till the end. So
And
I mean, it's
one of my favorite quotes was by Kid Rock, and it was "Go where you're celebrated, not tolerated."
that's right.
So
Exactly.
tell these guys, like, man, you might want to come into this industry,
Yeah,
because we stand up for our flag,
you dang right.
and we bow our heads and take our hat off during our prayer. We pray for every event. And if someone's kneeling, they're either injured or they're about to be.
That's right. Exactly.
That's how we look at it.
Exactly.
But yeah, one of my guys, he sent me this one. He sent me this picture. He had just won the Mill Pro.
Oh wow.
Yeah, him and he won I think he won it with Junior D's. Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's pretty cool.
That is very cool. Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't get to go to the rope and the rodeo at Northside, but I won't
That
miss
one's
another
fun.
one. Yeah,
That one's fun. You got to come to that one. That's a cool event.
Early on, after Kyle had been assassinated, I got in touch with his dad, and I, for some reason, felt the calling to get involved in their situation and to help with his foundation. And Wayne and I have gotten to be extremely close and really, really good friends. And I can call him one of my really good friends. But, that brought in a whole new perspective to me of the amount of need that there is for these type of situations. And this type of thing is these guys come home, they have to start over. They have their pension, but I mean, other than that, that's pretty much all we don't take care of them enough.
That movie, American Sniper.
Mm-hmm.
It really did inspire me with a lot of the ideas that I had. And one of the things that it was when he kept going out on tours and kept going back out there and wanting to go back out there to make a difference. Yeah. And his superior told him, said, man, just take a look around here. There's a lot of guys that need help right here.
Yeah.
And when he started, you could tell it was kind of a shock to him, and it went into perspective. And when he started taking them out and going and shooting with them, and one of the guys that he was shooting with, when he said, man, I feel like I got my balls back again.
Yeah. Yeah.
To me, that resonated.
Sure. Yeah.
That really did, because I know the adrenaline of what it's like to ride a horse. I know the certain speed that you get. There's some adrenaline there. I know what it's like when you turn that steer for the very first time. I watch it every weekend at one of my clinics. I also know, too, what happens when you get a back number in front of everyone.
Right.
I also know what happens, too, when you get to rope a steer in what an NFR setting feels like live on the Cowboy Channel. And then you win that bitch and make that victory lap. I'm like,
that is awesome.
There's a lot of cool elements where you feel like you get your balls back.
Yeah,
and that was one of the things when I watched that, I'm like, I can do this with what I do.
You bet. And that made a big difference.
Oh, it's my gosh. That podcast I did with the guys in the trenches, that one went different routes than, I was having Blake Mallory there that's a counselor for these guys. And then for him to be in the same shoes and boats of where a lot of them have been has been huge. When he says, I understand, they know he understands because he's one of them.
Right.
And so many of these guys, man, internalize it.
Yeah.
And
unlike you and I, they can tell us all this stuff but you and I have no perspective on that.
We can't say the word we understand.
No, we can't. You can't do that.
And they say a lot of times when those guys, when things happen, they call it the caboose. They just throw in the caboose. When they're out on, they get, things are happening and bullets are flying and you see this and you throw in the back and everything that you just throw in the back, and they say when you come home, it all just goes
right.
And everything, because everything slows down. And, the getting conditioned back in civilianhood is so hard for so many of them because things slow down. And, for one, when you're out, Brandon out there at one of Schaffner's places that he has leased, and we're watching the sun come up, and, we're gathering cattle on this beautiful green pasture, and, we're separating the cows from the calves and vaccinating them. We're moving.
Yeah.
That whole time we're moving. Jackpots, we're moving.
Right.
The other great thing about the jackpot we have, too, is the fact that they're also, everyone around them is one of them.
Sure. Yeah. That's what I meant. Well, yeah, exactly.
And for them guys, what I didn't realize when I did that, too, when I put on this roping, was I didn't realize how much those guys talk about how much they needed that. Mm-hmm. They needed to get around their guys again. They needed to get around other guys that are, maybe they're going through, or they've been through what they were going through, or just the shit talking.
That one person that they can talk to that understands, because there's not that many out there. And one thing I want, these guys to know, is as small of a fish as I am in this sea, and the smallest splash that I try to make with my business and doing what we do for, with them and for them. I want them to know that if the rest of the world doesn't have your back, I do. Mm-hmm. There's so much wrong with America today that, we're the first ones to go out there and give foreign aid, but we cannot help the people here at home. Look, dude,
man, is that
I got
so
you back.
backwards?
I got you back. Yep. If they don't, I do. I promise. Whatever you need.
Well, I guarantee you they tell you the same thing that I've heard, and it's probably one of the coolest compliments I've ever had. When they talked about, man, it's so good to come back home, and they had a word for, and I need to find that, because I've said it a few times without knowing what they told me, but basically that you're an American worth fighting for.
Right.
That's probably one of the best honors I think I've ever had as a person, and so, but I need to figure out, I need to remember what he told me, because I keep saying that, but we would definitely put you in that category. So we appreciate everything you've done for the organization, and
it's my pleasure.
Everything you're doing for the industry. And like I said, guys, if you're in the Texas community, and there's no excuse if you're in the Metroplex, there's plenty of places to go, but don't miss that mud pie. I'm telling you, man, it's a game changer. That's the best dessert ever. You guys got the best dessert trays ever.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming on this podcast, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Good luck this year, and I know you guys are going to do good this year. You got two good guys with you, and
you bet.
Horses look good. It's going to be fun.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.